Well, with me now, Martin Berry from the College of Paramedics. Thank you very much for coming in.
Hello.
Hi there. The government says that ambulance services in England are continuing to perform well under pressure, but we've been hearing a lot about the pressures. In terms of what the government is doing to address them, 2,200 more paramedics have been taken on since 2010, and the number of training places is increasing. Is it making a difference? I mean, when you look at what we're hearing today and you hear about all those extras going in, it doesn't seem to tally.
The ambulance services have been under pressure for a long, long time, and there's been this historical view of let's work harder, let's work faster. Now's the time that we need to start looking at how can we do things differently. Yes, we need more paramedics out there to actually respond to the increasing number of calls that the ambulance service are receiving, but we also need them to do things a little bit differently. It takes between 3 and 4 years to educate and prepare a paramedic for practice because of the role that they have, and the wide scoping responsibility that they have is vast. So it is going to take time to roll out more and more paramedics, but it's not just simply about managing more and more calls, it's managing them differently. That was what we need to focus on.
Okay, well on that, it's quite interesting because we're saying that only one of the 13 ambulance services has hit the target to respond to 75% of the most urgent calls within 8 minutes, and that is the Welsh Ambulance Service. And it's done it, actually, by reducing the number of cases it's classing as an emergency quite dramatically, so it can prioritise those critical calls. Just explain a bit about what it's doing.
We have to be clear that the absolute priority is to make sure that a fully equipped and qualified paramedic gets to the patients with immediately life-threatening conditions quickly. But we've got to look at the information and the data that we're seeing, because different types of patients are using the ambulance services. Across the UK, ambulance services categorise around 45% of 999 calls as life-threatening, requiring an 8-minute response. However, the information coming through shows that's probably closer to more 5 to 10% of patients present with life-threatening conditions.
But obviously you don't want to take a risk when you're answering the call and you've got limited time to define whether something is an emergency or not.
Absolutely. So there are some pilots. The Ambulance Response Project that's going on across the UK is looking at this data and looking at this information. And what they're trying to do is they're giving call takers a little bit extra time to actually try and work out what is going on. So if a patient does end up calling an ambulance service and it turns out that they may be better served with a specialist paramedic in minor injuries, or a mental health specialist, or a GP surgery, then let's get them to go and manage the patient, and then we save that ambulance for that immediately life-threatening patient that comes through.
So if Wales is doing that successfully, why isn't that being rolled out?
Wales has been a really good example of what can happen when we look into it and bring about change. Across England and Scotland, it's taking more time because we're talking about more ambulance services and different areas doing things in slightly different ways. So we've got to really work out what is it that works and if we can duplicate that in different areas.
And are there any other aspects in particular that you would identify that could make a difference? Because when you look at the statistics and the amount of time that is wasted queuing outside A&E departments in order to drop off patients is staggering. It adds up to the equivalent of 286 crews being taken out of the system for a whole year.
You're absolutely right. And if we're honest, patients, if they don't need to go to A&E, don't want to go to A&E. And if we can manage them safely in the community, that's better all round. So we need the modern paramedic to be well educated, and the College of Paramedics are working very hard to create the national curriculum to prepare these clinicians so that when they go out to the patients that are phone 999, we can treat them and leave them at home in the community, so we don't end up taking them to already pressured A&Es and then end up being delayed at the A&E. Because as a clinician, there is nothing more soul-destroying than knowing when you're standing there, knowing that there are other people waiting for ambulances. So if we can manage people in the community, that's better all round.
Good to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.